This week we will be discussing probability. Theoretical probability of an event is the ratio of the number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes. A ratio of the number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes. A ratio is just a fraction. The question asks, what is the probability of rolling an odd number on the number cube? Well, what numbers are on the number cube? And which ones are odd? So there's 3 odds out of 6 sides. And that simplifies to 1/2. So the probability of rolling an odd number on the number cube is 1/2. Sometimes STAAR problems ask you for a sample space. Sample space is just a list of all the possible outcomes. So we're going to list the possible outcomes for flipping a coin and rolling a dice. And there's a couple of different ways that they list these. Sometimes they actually make a list. Like on a coin, I could either get heads or tails. Well, if I got heads, then I could get 1 on the dice. Or I could get heads and then 2 on the dice. Heads and then 3, heads and then 4, heads and then 5, heads and then 6. Or if I got tails, I could get tails then 1, tails then 2, tails then 3, and so on. So these are all the possible outcomes, or the sample space. Another way to show the sample space is by making a tree. So either you get heads or you get tails. That's the coin. And then we have the dice, and the dice is going to get 6 little tree limbs. Each branch represents one of the possible outcomes. So this little branch right here represents heads and then 1. This one represents heads and then 2. Just like if I trace this branch, that would be tails then 4. Or tails and 6. So each branch represents a different possibility. Today, let's just jump into some example questions, because probability is pretty easy, because really you're just making fractions and simplifying them. Number 1, Brenda has 5 pink bows, 1 blue bow, 4 purple bows in a box. She will randomly choose 1 bow from the box. What is the probability in fraction form that Brenda will choose a purple bow? Well, I can see there are 4 purple bows. So 4 purple, and then I need a total. So the total would be 4 plus 1 plus 5, which is 10. 4/10 can be simplified by 2, and you get 2/5. Number 2, a bag contained colored tiles. 3 tiles are red, 6 tiles are green, 3 tiles are blue. A tile will be randomly selected from the bag. What is the probability in decimal form that the tile selected will be green? There are 6 green tiles out of 12. 6 out of 12 simplifies to 1/2. And 1/2 as a decimal, half of a dollar is 50 cents. So 0.5 or 0.50. Number 3. A study of a population of 500 students revealed that 20 out of every 150 students in the population have studied for a test. Based on the results of this study, how many students in the population have never studied for a test? Well, they would be the failures. The ones that haven't studied would be 150 minus 20 out of the 150 total. 150 minus 20 makes 130 out of 150. And you could simplify by 10, or you can do it like this, because I noticed that both numbers end in a 0, so I can just take the zeros off. And that fraction would be 13/15. Now that's not the answer because it asks us to predict for 500 students. To predict, we set up a proportion. That was the fraction I started with, and I'm predicting for a new total of 500. Now, if you know 15 times what gets me 500, that would be awesome, but I don't think I know that. So I'm going to cross multiply 13 times 500. And it's really just 13 times 5, which is 65 with 2 more zeros behind it. And the other way is going to be 15 times n. And then to solve for the n, we have to divide by 15. So cross multiply, then divide. Looks like it's going to be a repeating decimal. So about 433 students have never studied for a test out of the 500. Number 4, Justice has a bag of Orbeez. She will randomly select one Orbeez from the bag. The container has 6 green Orbeez. The container has 14 orange Orbeez. The container has 12 blue Orbeez. This container has 16 blue Orbeez. What is the probability as a simplified fraction of not selecting a pink Orbeez? Well, I need a total. So if we add all those up, there's 50 total. If 16 are pink, then how many are not pink? So there's 34 out of 50 that are not pink. And we need to simplify that. Since they're both even numbers, I can divide by 2. I know half of 50 is 25 because I know quarters. And half of 34 is 17. Number 5, the table shows the number of bottles of different kinds of juice sold at a cafeteria on Monday. If the cafeteria has 8 customers on Tuesday, which prediction for Tuesday is not supported by the data in the table? I believe that's supposed to say 80 customers because we're making a prediction. So we need a total. If I add up all of the people, they sold 40 juice And we are going to predict for 80. Well, what would I have to do to 40 to change it to 80? Times 2. So if I do that all the way up, I'll have my new predictions. $11 times 2 is 22. 7 times 2 is 14. 18 times 2 is 36. And 4 times 2 is 8. Now that I have my predictions, I can read the answer choices. The number of bottles of cranberry juice sold will be 6 more than the number of bottles of pineapple juice sold. Well, pineapple I found was 8. And if I add 6 to that, that would be 14. And I've got 14 predicted for cranberry, so that is correct. B says the number of bottles of apple juice sold will be 6 times the number of bottles of cranberry juice sold. Well, cranberry juice was 14, so 6 times 14 would be 84. And it looks like the prediction for apple was 22, so that's not correct. Letter C. There will be a total of 50 bottles of orange juice and cranberry juice sold. So orange plus cranberry, add those together. And yes, you do get 50, so that one is also correct. Choice D. The difference between the number of bottles of apple juice sold and the number of bottles of pineapple juice sold will be 14. Apple was 22. Pineapple was 8. 22 minus 8 is 14. That is also correct. So B is the not answer. Number 6. The manager of a movie theater randomly surveyed 50 people who entered the movie theater on Friday. The manager asked about the type of movies each person preferred. The results of the survey are shown in the table. Based on the results in the table, which statement about a person who will go to the theater next Friday is true? Okay, well, this time it didn't ask us to predict for anything, but we will still need a total. Total people surveyed were 50. Choice A says the person is 3 times as likely to prefer comedy as horror. Well, horror was 12, and 12 times 3 would be 36. And it says comedy was 15. So 36 and 15, that's not equal to each other. B states the person is twice as likely to prefer drama as horror. So horror times 2 is 24. Is drama 24? No, it's only 6, so that one's not correct either. Letter C. The person is less likely to prefer horror or drama than action. So horror was 12, or means plus, so drama is 6. 12 plus 6 is 18. Is 18 less than 17? No. Choice D. The person is more likely to prefer horror or comedy than action or drama. Is that sentence correct? This would be 27, and this would be 23. So yes, that is the correct choice.